President Biden and his predecessor Donald Trump are set for a presidential rematch after dominant performances in state primaries overnight on what's known as Super Tuesday.
We're all worried about this. They're worried about electing one of those two. So far from the current projected results, the Trump is expected to win in all but one of the states that voted, seeing off the challenge of his Republican rival, Nikki Haley, in devastating ways. This is what he had rather calmly to say. Have a listen, have a watch.
They call it Super Tuesday for a reason. This is a big one. And they tell me, the pundits and otherwise, that there's never been one like this. There's never been anything so conclusive. This was an amazing night, an amazing day. It's been an incredible period of time in our country's history. It's been sad in so many ways, but I think it's going to be inspiring because we're going to do something that, frankly, nobody's been able to do for a long time.
God, I want him doing my PR.
I wish I had that man's confidence. Well, for more now on Super Tuesday, let's speak to Scott Lucas. He's Professor of International Politics at the University College Dublin's Clinton Institute.
Wow, what a mouthful that is.
It was indeed. Scott, Trump seems to have triumphed yet again.
Yes, apart from the small state of Vermont, which voted for his Republican challenger, Nikki Haley, he won all of the other 15 states. Joe Biden virtually ran unopposed on the Democratic side. So you pretty much have your lineup set up for November. But, and I hate to burst Mr. Trump's bubble, here I think is the bigger story that came out of last night's primaries across the United States. Joe Biden still faces challenges on the Democratic side to convince Democratic voters you've got to turn out in November. Between about 7 and 20% voted uncommitted in those states that allow that option on their ballots. Even more worrying for Donald Trump is that even though, Nikki Haley got between about 25, 35% of the vote in most states, and you might say, well, Trump got the rest. In exit polling, moderate voters, so moderate Republicans by a 2-to-1 margin preferred Haley. They just simply didn't turn out as much as Trump's dedicated fans. If those moderate Republicans continue not to vote for Trump, whether or not they shift over to Biden, and if independents don't vote for Trump in November, then I think even his PR, as you played it, is going to have a hard time, especially if this election focuses on the issues, the most serious issues for America in peacetime since 1865, rather than on Trump's spectacle.
I get that, Scott, and I'm not on either side. I'm not even trying to force a debate. And I understand the critics of Donald Trump, and I'm not here to espouse what I believe to be the right way to move. But let's put to you something that every single American commentator has agreed with me on. We can talk about age. We can talk about criminal indictments. We can talk about let's make America great again. We can talk about Hunter Biden. Is it not an absolute fact, and I lived there for 3 years, that across a middle America, whether the people in Washington, D.C. and all the commentators want to admit it or not, that America economically was better off under Donald Trump? And you talk about what people are interested in. Middle America, I'm talking Columbus, Ohio. I've been there, have you? Unbelievable. Don't go again. These people believe they were better off under Donald Trump. Is that not a fact, Scott?
That's the Donald Trump medicine show. And again, I hate to be an analyst rather than play up the headlines. But the facts during the Trump years is that, in fact, the United States did not create as many jobs as it had in the previous 8 years when there was a Democratic president named Barack Obama.
I'm talking about the United States economy. I'm talking about the 4 years that's followed. That's what I'm trying to say is a lot of Americans would look at Biden and go, you didn't do what you said. That's the analogy I'm trying to make, right?
Yeah, and that's a little bit of sound versus substance. The substance here, Jeremy, is that the U.S. GDP, its rate of growth, is 5%. That's very, very good, especially compared, I hate to say it, to the UK economy right now.
True.
The inflation's been going down month on month for more than a year. The Biden administration has passed the most substantial economic legislation since the 1960s, whether you talk about the coronavirus relief bill, the infrastructure bill, whether you talk about Build Back Better for a green economy and for technological change. The question is always, do Americans feel that? And that is, while I think most Americans are indeed better off because of this and will be in the future, there are some Americans who are still suffering coming out of the Great Recession, going all the way back to 2009.
But then if that's the case, and we put aside all the arguments about personality and age, If that's the case, and you're right, why is Donald Trump looking still to be leading this thing against Joe Biden? With everything that you all think, understandably, he's done wrong. Why are you telling me that 100 million people of your country don't know anything about the world? Because he got 75 million votes, which is bigger than the United Kingdom last time, and we all know how that ended. The guy's not going away, is he? That's what I'm saying.
No, this election's up for grabs. If you look at the polls right now, as much as you want to go to polls, it's pretty much neck and neck. But, in terms of why Donald Trump succeeds with the spectacle, look, you folks may have gone to a pub once or twice in your life. You go to the pub and there might be a person in the corner that's shouting, "World's going to hell." The world's going to hell. Everything's terrible. That person tends to get a lot of attention. And Trump knows how to do that. Trump's got that art of the deal, as he puts it out. Here's my big takeaway, folks, and this is beyond Trump versus Biden. This election is in very much about the American system and the fate of the American system. You've got issues with immigration, healthcare, the economy, women's rights, LGBT rights, climate change, foreign policy issues from Ukraine to the Middle East. Will the American system, and I'm pointing at the media especially, but also those folks in the know in business and politics, will they seriously grapple with those issues? Or will they just let this be a circus? Because here's a takeaway from last night. In exit polls in North Carolina, what people wanted to talk about was not the spectacle, was not age. Here were their four main issues. They wanted to talk about education. They wanted to talk about immigration. They wanted to talk about women's rights. And they wanted to talk about, quote, democracy. In other words, that challenge to the American system that we've seen, especially with the Capitol attack in 2021. Is that what this election is fought? Or do we get a bit of a medicine show and America spirals downwards because it's not dealing with those issues with adults in the room?
Fascinating.
Absolutely. Scott Lucas from University College Dublin,
you.
thank you so much for joining us this morning.